Ooh, sorry about that. Game over. It is clearly not game over. Welcome in, everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome to round one of the $650 Under the Sea PUBG Mobile Finals Day 2. It all comes down to this 5 short, brief matches is all that separates us from figuring out who wants that $650 prize pool the most. But first and foremost, if you aren't acquainted, I'm RedEyes. We're going to go ahead and get into it. We're already kicking it off with a little rumble in the jungle. You already know some Sandhawk. So with that being said, let's see what sort of map we are working with. All right, well, the flight path is not centralized at all, but I don't think that's very consequential. It is Sandhawk, after all, our smallest map that we're going to be dealing with today. So realistically, you can get basically anywhere you want by deploying that chute. So let's have a look at it. If you're just now tuning in, ladies and gentlemen, you aren't late at all. Welcome in. We are just kicking off the action with a little rumble in the jungle, some Sandhawk. And to start things off, wow, what a spread we have here. You don't often see this kind of spread on a Sandhawk. Sure, it is kind of par for the course for PUBG Mobile, but with it being our smallest and most CQC intensive for the esports scene, you generally get some action pretty quickly. So for now, I'm going to start off by tuning in to the Royals of War, who aren't too far off from center, occupying the boot camp. Let's get into it. Sorry about that. So far, no confrontations on the board, but we did just hear a couple bullet fires from center. I'm pretty sure those are misfires, realistically. I don't see Royals being quite close enough for that confrontation just yet, but you know, anything can happen. Royals are also somewhat sandwiched in between that little congestion between Ventru, centers, Aces at Ruins, and then to the north, members of Team 6, in particular Chris of Team 6. Other than that, it is looking like it's going to unwind to be a bit of a slower start, especially for, you know, it being this map. But anyone who's ever seen me commentate anything kind of knows my spiel here. Whenever we're left with a slower start for the early to mid game portion of PUBG Mobile Esports, it tends to be the nature that when that happens, it kind of comes to a climactic standpoint with a pretty intensive end game. So I think it's going to be worth the trade. But for now, we are left with a bit of a foot tapper. I am curious about the rotations that are going to be needing to be put inbound between, you know, members of Queso, as well as Extreme Ice and the members behind him, R8. Now, keep in mind, R8 has had, you know, realistically one of the worst, you know, possible starts that they could have with day one, just not really getting many of the numbers that they needed. And yes, I did see that in the Elim feed, and it looked like NRG kind of just went off for a water ending on themselves. But here we go, Ventru Goat getting a little closer to the likes of Royals. So this is what we're going to start off by tuning things into. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to go ahead and take the slot list off the screen, but if anyone needs that back, you just let me know. Let me know who you're rooting for in chat. If you're nice enough to tune in, I'll be nice enough to try to give them the screen time if I can. That does not by any means amount to preferential treatment, but if we have a standoff between two teams and one of those teams has viewers in the chat, of course I'll give you the perspective of it. But for now, that's all theoretical. And for those of you who aren't quite acquainted as to who I am RedEyes, your ever-lovable and adorably cuddly caster. A little late on giving you the intro, but we kind of got right into the thick of it, I was thinking. So, I've been commentating the semi-pro esports scene for PUBG Mobile now for about 4-ish years. I think I said 5 on the last one, but I'm pretty sure that might be incorrect. So we're going to say 4 to be on the safe side. But yeah, and we have an absolute gang of heavy hitters. Even though I just took the slot list off, let's give them a little intro. We got the likes of Titan Gaming, Extreme Ice, Team Queso, Team Control, the Royals of War, NRG Galaxy, the TKS Navy crew, Incognite Gaming, Burn in Silence, Center, Ventru, Team 6, Region 8, SOS, Team Aces, and Team 6. So I am expecting some climactic standoffs here. And speaking of which, we got R8 skating on ice here as they go up against the likes of Extreme Ice, with Zendry having a nice high ground position to just pick them off. Now, this is not the kind of turnaround that R8 was hoping for. They don't want to be at risk of being first out 5 out of the only 6 matches played. That's right. Yesterday, they had such a rough go of it that the first 4 matches, I believe, they were the 16th team, or pardon me, I guess the first team eliminated out in 16th place. Such a tough start, but you got to give the crew in R8 credit because they never gave up. And coming into round 5, they showed a huge leap of improvement. And I am curious to see if that added a little bit of momentum here as they move into the start of day 2. Granted, they might, I said this yesterday, but even if they don't have necessarily a chance of getting a shot of that $650 prize pool, that does not make it not worth their while to give it their very best effort, because these are teams that they're going to be going up against for quite some time, and it does send a message to the remainder of the playing field saying, hey, you know, we deserve to be here, and let us show you exactly how we qualified to get here. All right, well, Ventru and R8 just not done with each other yet. It looks like the GOAT has struck again, this time taking out Meso. Oh, pardon, that's Ling Ling. That was Ling Ling taken out right then and there. 6x M4 in hand and allowing the final member of R8 to have that escape route. And speaking of that guy, that is going to be Meso here, and driving somewhat out of the frying pan into the fire, escaping the clutches of Ventru, but getting even closer to Burn in Silence. Could be a problematic situation to come. For now, he seems to be unnoticed. All right, everyone. Well, a little bit of a waiting game continuing here, but let's go check in on the Royals here just for a moment. And, yeah, I tell you what, we're going to get a little bit of diversity here. We're going to pull up 2 cameras just in case, because this last guy on R8 finds himself somewhat close, as we mentioned, to members of Burn in Silence. Elsewhere on the map, though, I'm hearing shots. Okay, that's going to be from Aces. Yeah, and it's SNR, the Sinners, striking their first blow here on day 2 of the PUBG Mobile Under the Sea Tournament Finals. We got Sook here aiming outward, 4x M4 in hand, getting a couple bullets onto Sadra. Not really enough to do much there. Maybe 1 or 2 shots, enough to add a little intimidation factor and keep the opposition at bay. Not really enough to warrant any sort of push. With Sadra still up, still getting another serving. He's got a second serving high-calorie bullets coming in, being brought down to about 1/4 of his overall health. He is able to get a first aid off like it never happened. But NRG and Burn in Silence having a go at each other now, with Fate coming out in the clutch, getting the DBS knock and thirst on the opposition, and now able to assist his teammate, potentially expected to be able to get revived. Zaro able to get a takedown on Jader from the off angle. Well, Fate pushing forward, cooking up a frag grenade, trying to get a nice little utility knock without having to risk his own peak. And wow. Ladies and gentlemen, do not try that at home. That is a lot more riskier than Fate made it look. That boils down to experience and just being at a high skill level. Those sort of utility throws from such a close quarter, I said it yesterday, but boy, those are really risky. And if you're not the type of utility thrower who has such a high success rate with them, to feel very confident about that, I would suggest attacking with weaponry, a gun, rather than a utility from 5 feet away. If you're not Fate or one of these pros, well, don't just step in the ring and think you box. So where's our next bit of action gonna come from? Tell you what. We're gonna go check it out over here. Trying to give you guys the most in-depth experiences I can with a limited observer client, but I think this is pretty cool to get to have this right here. So nothing overly fancy, but it'll do for now. Now we're hearing those shots, no real connecting damage there, it doesn't sound like. So for now, who were those shots coming from? We'll get eyes on that in just a moment. Doesn't look like we're quite in the realm of close proximity here for anybody to be immediately switched to. We still have R8 Meso right here, but I clearly he's just laying low and letting these numbers dwindle. We're not going to stay too attentive to him until he gets some action. You know, realistically, as a solo, he's doing exactly what he needs to be doing, just laying low. At the very best case scenario, getting a third-party elim steal when the opportunity is afforded to him, but not really out there peeking anything. Okay, so we're going to go switch on over back into the in-game scene. Why? Because we got the boys and Incognite getting into some action here and now. We have, what's his name, already knocked and down for the count. If anyone knows how to pronounce that name in the chat, please do let me know. I only say what's his name because I do not know.
What is your name?
I told you!
It doesn't matter what your name is!
All right, we're hearing some distance shots. I think it is just members of Oxen with a nice high ground position over the crew in Incognite, but even so, I'm not overly confident of it amounting to more than a knock if it does. I don't think that it's going to amount to a push downward. But look at this, NRG showing up to the party. I don't know if Spec is any sort of aware about his Incognite opposition. It almost seems, though, that, you know, Spec in full Spec form out here hunting. There's not a lot of subtlety to a glowing Lambo, is there? All right, so where is it gonna be? Yeah, okay. Now, Spec is in for a potential world of hurt here. Not really surveying inside, and, you know, maybe he expected to hear some realms of footsteps, but the more concerning factor to me right now is why hasn't Incognite struck on him? Well, tell you what, we're going to go check in on Team 6 and Queso here, because Queso just had a loss in the shape of Milovan, leaving it down to a three-piece of Nada, Potro, and M2M. And tell you what, on the alt cam, we're going to pull it up because Incognite finally striking onto Spec, but not doing so very effectively, taking him down to pretty low health there. But Spec through the window, jump shot takedown like a absolute pro. Boy, I said this yesterday, but I don't care who you are or what language you speak, what tier you play at. A DBS shot sounds the same in every language and means the same thing in every language. Bye-bye. So, where should we be tuned to? Tell you what, let's give a little bit more attention here back onto the NRG crew, because even as a three-piece, look at them in full form. 5 elims already on the board with 40 seconds left in stage 3. All right, we got Ventru and the Sinners having a go at each other here. It looks like Sook has been eliminated. That's going to leave things down to a three-piece of Jask, Karen, and Scarface. Scarface cooking up a utility aimed outwards at Ventru. We have Axial reduced down to half of his health, but there is a flank rotation in the works here. We'll get Ventru up on the alt cam. All right, well, it looks like they were just bringing the squad in. And yep, Scarface with one knock adds another to the mix, and the GOAT has fallen right then and there. Beautifully placed nade. He is not done yet. 6x M4 aimed outwards for the likes of Ryder. He's either gonna ride or he's gonna die. We're about to find out which. By the way, I know that these dad jokes are corny. I'm cringing too. That does not mean I can stop. All right, Scarface trying to do a little bit of what Spec just added in with a jump shot, DBS, takedown through a window, but not getting a line of sight on the opponent just yet. Ryder on the alt cam now trying to secure a revive. Meanwhile, Scarface sort of anticipating some preliminary utility throws, but why is he hesitant and allowing this revive? It would be the question. All right, well, GOAT able to get back up and retaliate. Revenge served cold, fast, and on a platter, and I hate to say it, but that has got to be an error in judgment on his end. He definitely had done the majority of the effort to get Center very weakened. With the takedown on GOAT, I think that may have been caused to wait for the revive to start and then push outward on it. But at the same time, Ventru certainly, you know, they knew what they were doing with it. I still think, with all that said, Scarface probably should have pushed out on the revive. That's only with the observer's hindsight being 20/20 here. And it's easy for us to make those plays when we have extra information. But you got to remember, these participants aren't so fortunate as to have that extra coin in their back pocket. All right, we got Ryder aiming outwards, trying to get a line of sight on anyone from Aces. But no such luck. Who are those shots coming from? They sound like they're just warning shots thus far. And ladies and gentlemen, we still have 10 teams remaining, spread across 34 people. A little bit of congestion between SOS and members of Oxen. And as you can see, B7, you know, if there's ever a place for a snake to thrive, it would be the jungle, right? So we got a little jungle snake in the shape of B7 here, trying to catch any easy knocks on members of Oxen, but off in the distance, Extreme Ice skating on thin ice right here and now. Oh, yeah, the big cheese has struck. And Nada of Team Queso securing his or her second elim and the team's third. Now, retaliation being intended here for Potro as he's taken some bullet damage. And I'm going to withdraw that retaliation remark. This is SOS who did that damage, and in doing so, got the attention of Oxen unwillingly, but Oxen finds themselves in a bit of a predicament, serving as the deli meat in this peanut butter and trouble sandwich. NRG and SOS are the bread for sure. Ventru still keeping it going. Axial securing yet another takedown, and I believe this would be his fourth elim if he is able to secure the thirst. This is a Ventru with a mission. Boom goes the dynamite, all too literally. Remember my warning? I still reiterate it, but goodness, when it works out like Axial just did, you know that's a clip going up on social media. Very impressive. Axial jumps up from 3 elims to 6 in a matter of seconds there. That is a heavy backpack, and now we got Queso going in yet again. Tell you what, we're going to pull up multiple sides here. We got Team 6 on the other end on the alt cam. Team 6 down to Capri alone, aiming outward to the 3x4, trying to retaliate on to Queso, but taking that blue zone damage, and oof. Ah, goodness, you hate to see it, especially on a finals day, but as always, no one's got a higher KD than that blue zone. And look at Potro. The cheese is serving it out. And that is a hurtin' on SOS, reducing it down to their final hope, M2-3. And M2 going right to the prone zone here, laying flat like a belly bandit and trying to figure out, at the very least, where the opposition was striking from. And you can tell he was not able to do so as he just ran directly out in the open towards his teammates through a very vulnerable position. Unfortunate, but Queso using that high ground to their advantage. Now, switching briefly over to NRG. Now a 2-piece. They've lost Zaro early on. Not even that early on. But still, this 2-piece is responsible for 5 of the team's 8 elims. This is an NRG that is not to be underestimated. All right, well, Primo originally intending to get a revive on Rackster, but finding no such luck. As soon as he's out in the line of fire, Queso and NRG just raining a hailstorm of bullets their way. And now Potro with a monster nade. The nades so far today have been just next level. It's going to be a thirst. I kind of knew that was coming. If anything, it was a bait to try to get more damage onto it. You know, add a little insult to injury and add one more elim on it if anyone were to go for that revive. But look at this. Potro may have made a fatal error in pushing forward. He does try to account for it with... Oh, boy. Well, you almost asked for that one. And what... There's a little thing called karma in PUBG Mobile, and boy, the scales got balanced right there. Aragod of Royals of War pushing forward, and ladies and gentlemen, just like that, we're down to our final 3 teams here. It's a 3v2v1. Royals of War, Venture, and Oxen. We got Nats in here. Ooh, quickly taken down as soon as he's able to get in close enough quarters and get a line on his opponent. It was too close in quarters to survive it. Now that's going to leave all the pressure on Morrison with the S12 suppressed. And boy, oh boy, a clutch has been made. Ladies and gentlemen, what did we just see? I'll tell you what we saw. Oxen coming in like actual oxen, living up to their name there. And what a way to set the tone for day 2, the final day and the first round of it. That is a nice momentum and confidence builder right there for Oxen. And any way you look at it, that's got to be game over. Give them credit where credit is due. That is a chicken dinner on the tip of their tongue finish. To add to it 8 elims, that's an 18-point gain in round 1 alone. The Royals, you know, there's royalty in second place, and when you got 8 placement points to add on to the 5 elims, a 13-point gain is pretty fit for royalty. We got God, these jokes are so corny. I gotta stop this. Ventru in 3rd place with 9, but boy, oh boy, did we see Axial go off. The DBS jump shot through the window, followed by a DBS knock waiting for the teammate coming immediately out of the door. That was just impressive. 9 elims and a 3rd place finish. Good work. We got the TKS Navy boys in 4th with 3. The Big Cheese landing in 5th place with 9 elims between Potro and Nada alone. NRG entering this round as a 3-piece, getting high enough placement, you know, to get their placement points, but also 8 elims to add into the equation. Imagine what they're going to be like if they come in with a full 4-piece team today. SOS working their way into 7th, but unfortunately for them, a big fat onion for elims. Team 6 in 8th with 2. We got the Aces in 9th, but no pocket rockets for these boys. 0 elims on the board. Extreme Ice has fallen under the ice with only 1 elim in 10th place. The Senators can't atone in 11th place with only 1 elim from Jazz. I've got to stop this. This has got to stop now. These corny dad jokes have gone too far. Every time I'm saying this, I want you all to know there's just like a little cringe that I have too. I'm like, you know, you're a real punk for this. I know. All right. 12th place, 2. Incognite, 13th with 0. Burn in Silence, 14th with 1. And now we know why there was the NRG self-drowning moment at the beginning, because he was not able to join his team in time, and so he had to get himself out of there before giving a free elim to the oppositions. So, ladies and gentlemen, that is round 1 of 5, down, done, and dusted. But we still have 4 rounds of action, mayhem, and strategy moving in today. And so stick around. We'll be back in just a few short minutes with round 2 of 5 of the $650 PUBG Mobile Under the Sea Tournament Finals Day 2. Be back soon. All right, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Time for a little tangle and a wrangle. You already know what time it is. Kicking off round 2 with the very first map ever introduced to the game. We don't really need to say too much about it, but let's go ahead and get into the flight path and what we're working with. Okay, so not the most ideal of flight paths by any means, not very centralized, but it's not a terrible one either. It could be much worse in context, so it still leaves drop options plenty for everyone. You got the military base, Primorsk, Pachinki, Rozhok, Severny shooting range. Apparently even Zarki is up for grabs. It is definitely going to exclude certain spots. Obviously, there's not going to be any Kameshki, Lipovka, Milta. So with a flight path like this, I do think that it does leave for like a higher than average start to the match in terms of confrontation, and then usually a bit of a recession as people migrate into the next zones and solidify their positions for the end game. But for now, let's take a look here, zoom in a little bit, make sure we don't miss anything on the board, because right away I'm seeing something. Primo of Oxen sort of straying from the path here. Sort of straying from the path and dropping alongside, at least with the assistance of one of his teammates, but next to a full team of Ventry members. And it looks like he caught wind of it and has decided that was not the intention and to keep moving on. So let's go a little bit further up north, where actually we'll get our attention to centers here, because they're currently sandwiched between Extreme Ice and the likes of SOS at the North Georgia Bowl region. And even though that waterway and bridge may divide them, that does not stop a 6X M4 from getting a quick takedown. But where's the bit of blood gonna come from? Little bit of downtime. And the good thing that we've got going for us, ladies and gents, is the occupation of this water here. It's taking up a lot of the surface area, and that limits the participants' area of occupation considerably, meaning that we are due for even more action in the mid-game region or early region. But, yeah, wow, that's a considerable portion of water. I'd say that's probably about a third of the zone currently water. If that does not resolve itself to an inland zone rotation, if the zone does not, work its way back to a more land-occupied zone, it's going to be a rough end game for these participants. For now, I still think this is kind of what we need to have our attention on, so let's just have a view at it. Currently, everyone is just trying to get properly looted, make sure that they're as equipped as possible for the altercations to come, and not really a lot happening there. So, you know what? While we have the downtime, let's talk about the map of Erangel, just in case there is anyone who is new to the nature of PUBG Mobile Esports. It's okay to join the party late. Ain't nothing wrong with fashionably late. I'll give you the rundown. So Erangel is the first map ever introduced to this game, and it's essentially this off-bred love child to Sandhawk and Miramar, because it's just got a little bit of the best of both worlds. It's got areas for their CQC, close quarter combat altercations, but it does leave itself as a fairly sniper intensive map as well. There's a lot of open space in other parts, open fields, to get some fairly easy distance takedowns. So while you do need to be very aware of your close surroundings, you can't let your guard down to your distant surroundings as well. Tell you what, let's have a look-see at the boys in Extreme Ice. It looks like Rushy just surveying the scene, just trying to get properly looted as well. Closer to the other end of this South George region, outside of the crate area in the city realm. But nothing happening yet. Everyone's here for this marathon, not a sprint. And you like to see that. You don't want to see teams not taking an event like this seriously. With a prize pool like $650, that's no small change. That's a lot of extra spending money here. And no one in the running for that money wants to give that opportunity up easily. No sacrificing a free meal there. Let's go check in a little further down south. I know we checked in on NRG earlier, but it is interesting as they are fairly close to both Queso and Titans. These are 3 renowned Tier 1 professional teams, and that could lead for an elevated level of action if it does come to it. Not to mention, actually, all 4 of the teams in the Southwest cluster here are full-on pros. I mean, for the most part, all of these guys are pros. But, if not all of them, now that I'm getting an actual look at this, yeah, they're all pros. Okay. All right, well, I still think this is the place to be watching. As NRG driving in a West Coast migration, heading northbound and potentially in the running to drive square into the likes of Titans. We just saw, and Fate saw as well, the opposition ahead. Looks like Sinner's getting some action here. Scarface with the takedown, and they're squaring off into the likes of SOS. 6x 4 in hand, and boy, with 1 knock on 1777, and almost a second knock on B7, this is a tough start to round 2 for SOS. Now, this is where it boils down to patience and experience here. And I love to see what the Sinners are doing in this 2-2 split. Gagging, able to get the off angle, securing the thirst, but that thirst was just there for baiting anyway. Realistically, they're waiting for an off angle on B7 here. And maybe even going to try to make them fall into a false sense of security. Maybe the Sinners left. I think that would take a pretty gullible person at this stage and level of esports to fall for that. But we got R8 getting dangerously close to the likes of the TKS Navy crew, and same can be said for Royals of War and Titan. We're gonna switch over to Titan here on the main cam, and I will go back to the previous altercation on the alt cam just to make sure we don't miss any of the action. Got a little something for everyone here. Checking in on Vincenzo of the Titans. He would be the closest, getting a nice round of high ground and overwatch over the likes of Royals, but not likely to strike on him. I think this is more for scouting. If he does decide to strike on this, it would only be for an almost a sure thing knock and thirst. Otherwise, he is kind of putting himself in the danger zone there. Granted, from shooting from that high ground, if he were knocked, he would be somewhat out of the line of fire of it. If the teammates could get to him in time. Not worth risking, in my opinion. Incognite in being pursued here by R8. We got Meso putting a little bit of pressure on him. It does not seem like Incognite wants that altercation this early on, but they do leave some retaliatory fire outwards towards Ling Ling. R8 going to retreat back to the safety of the compound and try to solidify as a unit here, while SOS has some altercations of their own, squaring off continuously with the Sinners. This is the same altercation that we had seen about 3 or 4 minutes back. Well, after 1 knock has been thirsted, it adds a little bit of resentment here on the battlegrounds, and the Sinners out here trying to keep that momentum. Scarface is able to be revived here, healed up, but sipping on that blue zone damage. They do have the escape route here in the vehicle, and I still think that this is probably going to be an evacuation and a rotation into zone, and I got to agree with it. But I will go back to it just on the alt cam for now. But here on the main cam, we got the Team 6 crew and Incognite potentially about to face off as Incognite drives towards the coastal region, finding themselves an open, vulnerable field in the line of Team 6. They fall back to a position to cover just in time. SOS, as we saw on the alt cam, getting another takedown here. We got Z6 here trying his best for an elim, or at least a simple knock on the rotating opposition, but it's not going to happen. Meanwhile, Extreme Ice and the Titans dangerously close here. It's going to be Rushy of Extreme Titans, who just brisked by one of those members. Robert GG finding a little bit of high ground and gonna make his attempt on Google up, and look at the shots from Robert GG. The boy don't miss. Every bullet meeting its mark. 3x M4 and just wrecking the opposition out of the vehicle. Meanwhile, Team 6 and Incognite know it is a battle of patience here. No one wants to give that easy knock that will almost certainly result in a aggressive push. The first knock that we see between this altercation is almost definitely going to amount on a push inward. So I think the hesitation between these two teams is more than understandable. And remember what I said earlier about a more passive early to mid game, meaning a more action-packed in game, and I think that is what we are due here for. Is this mid game is going to start picking up here over the next couple minutes. A lot of action on the board as these participants are still dealing with a considerable amount of the zone occupied by water. But meanwhile, we got Team 6 here driving out of the frying pan into the fire, and we see it here with Novio escaping the clutches of Incognite and now driving through a full squad of Team Aces. Looks like Enigma heading up the tail end of this rotation and swallowing a lot of bullet damage, being brought down to just above half health as I say it. Shot down to 1/4 of his health with one tire out, and he is traveling slow as all get out. This is a tough one, and boy, I think there's reason to say get behind this hill, heal up. Any cover that you can use right now, it is not worth pursuing or not worth trying to continue to retreat at 5 miles an hour on a 3-wheeled buggy. He recognizes it, but he does leave him in a very vulnerable position with 4 members of Team Aces so close by and his teammates all the way at Primorsk at this stage. Luckily for him, Aces may have more important priorities in mind. Well, we're going to check in as the boys in NRG meet Team 6. All right, we got 6:15 here, shooting a couple stray bullets there at the opposition of Novio and Chris, but look at the outlier here. It's Spec coming in from an off angle, and they don't even see him. Look at this Fate coming in, keeping the attention off of Spec. Once he has his positioning, oh, to choke on my words right then and there. But boy, revenge dished out quickly as a nade crashes down onto Chris, and he's sent down to the prone zone. Novio retaliates with a utility that does not find its mark. Capri and 16 dangerously close to one another. Having the perspective of 16 here on the alt cam while we had the sky view here. And that is quick work there. But it is not it entirely for the likes of Team 6. They still have Enigma, the coin in their back pocket, and he is, you know, the unintentional coin in their back pocket. They did not mean to lose him in their rotation, but, you know, I guess you can say, luckily for him, context is everything, and the fact that his vehicle was attacked ended up saving him and saving the team from what would have been an early elimination, and now he's got a shot at placement points, which is at least something to help the team in the long run. Meanwhile, Team Queso's Milovan driving into a little love triangle here, but we have one member of Incognite hanging back in the mix of it all. It's going to be 44 here, cooking up a nade, and he is outnumbered by Aces. And I think you can tell already, Aces is spreading out and trying to get multiple lines of fire on this poor straggler from Incognite. And yet, rather than an attempted retreat, he just walks right into Sadra's nade. You hate to see it be so predictable, but dang. All right, Spec of NRG kind of trying to pull a little bait and switch here on the Incognite crew. We saw this from the NRG boys yesterday, having one member driving out and trying to lure the opposition into a false sense of safety, give him a little tunnel vision, and have him chase out to the remainder of the team. Not gonna fall for it, it doesn't seem. Switching over to Rushy of Extreme Ice, looks like he was scouting and surveying the scene a little bit, found himself fairly close to Royals of War and thought a little bit better of it. Royals still trying to get a little distance damage onto the Extreme Ice crew, but they can't zone in too much here. Remember, we were just talking about tunnel vision and the downside of it. They've got multiple members of Oxen close by behind them, and if they they focus too hard on teams like Ventru and Extreme Ice and leave their back turned to the likes of Oxen, Nat Zin will certainly capitalize. Okay, so a little bit of downtime here. Bit of a waiting game. Now, interestingly enough, the crew in NRG and Incognite, both of them, you know, out here in this close quarter altercation with one another and finding themselves at a bit of a risky point when it comes time to migrate inbound to this new zone, meaning that if they don't have any intel to tell them to pull a northbound migration traveling up this way, they're going to drive right into the fire, you know, out of the frying pan into the fire, so to speak. And boy, that's leaving a lot of gatekeeping opportunities for whoever comes out victoriously between this altercation of Queso and Titans. And speaking of which, it looks like it's about to happen now as Vincenzo gets a quick knock through the window. And looks like Ace is coming for... Yeah, they're coming in for a third party. And this is... well, you know, you got to give him credit. Vincenzo, a lot of restraint there. A lot of discipline, knowing that he had to bail on his knock and fall back to a position of safety, solidify with his team, become a unit again, because Aces was swarming on him like mosquitoes in a North Carolina summer. And unfortunately for him, that will allow Queso the opportunity to secure the revive on their fallen teammate. All right, switching over to Ace's perspective here. All right, Deep playing a bit of the waiting game here. Oh, Extreme Ice having at it in the distance. Let's get eyes on it. Yep, it's 98 here. And this is going to be a push onto SOS. It looks like they were able to secure, yeah, 2 knocks. It looks like either B7 or 1777 has been taken out of the equation. With Z6 knocked, W9 has no real choice but to cut his losses and try to fall back. Vehicle retreat and try to at the very least, acquire some placement points for his team. And definitely gonna have to dial things back to a reserved approach now, though. Incognite not letting their sights off here on NRG. NRG Fate trying to secure a revive on his fallen teammate G6 here. Meanwhile, Enigma of Team 6, the final hope for his team, working his way into this new zone after just securing his first elim and, you know, effectively the team's first elim as well. And he is the solo hope here for Team 6 in acquiring any points whatsoever this round. He just added 1 on the board, but without some decent placement, it's going to be a tough pill to swallow. Finding himself on a bad end of a zone flank rotation inbound with multiple members of Team Queso having compound cover and essentially in the one very opportunistic gatekeeping opportunity for them. Enigma needs to survey the scene, and if he does so, he might understand or might realize that he needs to pull a bit of a flank rotation himself. It will be his saving grace if so. And as I say it, R8 Meso knocked and quickly thirsted. Meanwhile, his teammate Smileboy looking like he's seeing a little bit of red himself. Spec having at it in the distance, same dissenters, but Smileboy here on the main cam, Uzi in hand. We're gonna get Spec of NRG up on the alt cam as he pushes inwards. Smileboy making his final stand here, does get the takedown on not just anybody, but Colgoat and Victex here taken out in just a few brief moments. But the fact that Smileboy was able to get Victex, as we saw yesterday, he was by far Royal's heaviest hitter. And I believe round 2 yesterday, putting up 10 of 21 elims alone. Jump DBS finish by Jader. Well, left him a little bit vulnerable on the side angle there. And just like that, Robert GG capitalizes. Burn in silence can get burned a little bit there. And Extreme Ice having to carry forward as a 2-piece of Rushy and Robert GG. But it is all out bloodbath warfare from here on out. We got Spec, the outlier here for NRG, keeping the distraction of Team Aces and Queso, it looks like. Might have to withdraw that. I don't think he's even firing at Aces. Aces and Spec are both keeping their attention on the likes of Queso, but the remainder of his NRG crew finding themselves dangerously close to the two-piece of Extreme Ice. But keep in mind, they do outnumber Extreme Ice on this angle 3 to 2. And if Spec goes back to join, that'll be a 4 to 2 outnumber. Zaro kind of assessing the scenario here, but I'm not sure that this is what he intended. Catching wind of Robert right there. Is it going to be an attempted? No, Robert says we don't need that. Weighing our options, we don't really have the numbers in our favor. I gotta agree with him on prioritizing rotation into this new zone, but his choice of positioning here finds him very vulnerable. On one side, he's got a full squad of Oxen, and on the other, multiple members of R8 and Royals, but Aragon gonna have to face off right here and now, and boom, shot through the window, and the Royals have fallen. Chivalry is dead. Getting eyes on this full 4-piece of TKS Navy. Party C is knocked down to the prone zone here. Ventru coming in, guns ablazing, but retaliation shots are outbound. Zhao taken down to below half health and sipping on that blue zone damage, while Jeer cooking up a beautifully placed nade. All the while, nades crashing around him too. Hellfire taking damage out of both of these teams, but Jeer just on a all-out warpath. 2 nades, 2 knocks. This boy knows how to place them, and Martha Stewart herself could not have cooked a nade better. And just laying out an onslaught of damage here. Gotta clip that. Can he secure this revive while Malkin provides the overwatch and cover fire? Wow, Rushy of Extreme Ice take down in the distance as he squares off with the high ground holders in Team Aces. And yes, we did just see the end to R8 in the Elim feed. Meanwhile, NRG in a contestation for high ground against the likes of Team Aces with a little third-party threat in the shape and form of Team Queso, and here they come in. Aces Yusuf was just not ready, leaving his entire back end unattended. Nada, quick takedowns left and right after a takedown on Yusuf, focusing and redirecting your attention. That is it for Aces, and Fate realizes what is happening here. This third party is a tough one, but look at that. Fate retaliating with a beautiful utility knock on to Deep. Ooh, that's wrong. Deep was from the previous eliminated team of Aces. So, Queso still a 2-piece here of M2M and Milovan. Nada and Potro just knocked. M2M cooking up a preemptive nade here, and not quite hitting the mark. Throwing it for where they were, not where they would be. Fate trying to utilize this vehicle for what bits of cover he can. But that could become a ticking time bomb if too many more bullets hit it. Alright, tell you what, we'll get Fate up on the alt cam here and now. Both sides of the altercation on the board. See him trying to secure the revive on his fallen teammate. It looks like it might even be a trade of revives here. But no, 1625 is quick to capitalize on an opportunity and pushing inbound before the revive can be secured. And now here we have it. M2M just swallowing that damage. S18 in hand. If there's anything that can handle it in a close quarters, shotgun would be the one to do it. A little bit too hesitant, though, on M2M's end, in my opinion. All right, ladies and gentlemen, down to our final team, 5 teams spread across 14 players. It is about to be a bloodbath warfare tangle and a wrangle endgame.
Let's get ready to rumble!
Here's the lay of the land. The 2-piece of Extreme Ice and Rushy finding themselves outside a zone. But here's the push. NRG wasting no time. And a quick aggressive push onto Oxen. Oxen, who seemingly has held position here for the entirety of the game. All right, with Natson down, it leaves it down to Morazen, Primo, and Raxter. Meanwhile, on the front cam, we got Fate laying out the damage. 5 elims to the team's 13. And they are still a full 4-piece. This is an NRG that is not to be underestimated. outwards onto Sinners. Albeit, you know, that the shots are hitting the mark. I don't think that's the right move. He's got enemies 4 feet away. Spec cooking a nade. Oh, but look at that. Robert GG of Extreme Ice. And oh no, Fate and Spec both downed. Fate thirsted. Spec now joining in the prone zone here. This is about to be a tough one. And realistically, if you're Extreme Ice or Sinners, the question is when to push in, because these teams are about to be, you know, taking each other out and doing their job for them, giving them extra placement points. Remember, after the top 8 slots are secured, every position that you survive, every slot you go up, 1 rank higher means more placement points. All right, well, Spec is revived and able to get back into the game. So Primo, little revenge knock followed by a thirst to follow suit. And just like that, Scarface of the Sinners taken down in retaliation. Let's get his perspective, or at least the Sinners' perspective. At this point, it's down to Karen on the alt cam, using what geographical cover he or she can. It's just going to be a hay bale. Morzen walked right into it. Spec, even though with no health, knew that in shooting and securing that elim, that his position was compromised. And I agree, he did not have time to even attempt a heal at that stage. I think he knew that his position was compromised, and he had 1 shot to get that elim, and that was just a strike first. So yeah, it just didn't work out in his favor, but you gotta give them credit, and especially in context. So yes, Sinners, a chicken dinner on the tip of their tongue finish. It's a very nice performance, especially when you have 5 elims to add to it. That is a 15-point gain for them alone. But remember what I said, context. And NRG was just on a berserker bloodbath warpath, just out for blood all of round 2, and that is why they put up literally 16 elims. So yes, they didn't get first place, but in context, 8 placement points plus 16 elims, that's 11 points more gained in round 2 than the first place holders. That's a 24 point gain for NRG in round 2 alone. Phenomenal performance. We got the Oxens working their way into 3rd this time around after what I believe was a first place finish in round 1. So ain't nothing wrong with bronze when you got 5 elim points to add into the mix. Extreme Ice in 4th place this time with 14 elims between 3 of their players. SOS finding themselves in 5th place but with a big fat 0 for elims. The Big Cheese, the Queso Boys in 6th with 4 elims between Nada and M2M. The TKS Navy crew 7th with 6. Aces in 8th with 1 from Sadra. We saw that nade placed from Sadra on the hilltop between themselves and NRG. R8 in 9th place with 2 elims thanks to Smiley Boy. And, you know, if I'm not mistaken, they were in kind of the thick of it from the get-go. So R8, got to give him credit, and got to give Smiley Boy credit for hanging in there. Ventru finding themselves in 10th place this time around. It is a bit sad, and ironically enough, Sad is the only one to put up the elim for the team. Royals of War in 11th with 1 from Aragod. Burning Silence burning silently in 12th with 3. We got Team 6 in 13th with 1 from Enigma. The Titans falling hard into 14th place with 0. And nothing's more incognito than last place as Incognito gets 15th with 0 elims. Well, ladies and gents, any way you look at it, that's gotta be game over for round 2. But we still have 3 rounds of action, mayhem, and strategy ahead of us as we work our way into round 3 of 5 of the $650 Under the Sea PUBG Mobile Tournament Finals Day 2 in just a few short moments. Stick around, we'll be back soon. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. Round 3 of 5 of the $650 PUBG Mobile Under the Sea Tournament Finals, Day 2. You already know what time it is. Time for a little destruction in the desert, a little bit of Miramar action, Miramar mayhem, if you will. Let's go ahead and get into the flight path and what we're actually working with here. All right, so I said this yesterday. Actually, I was gonna say that this is a better flight path than it looks like, but no, it's not. It's not a very ideal path, certainly not centralized, but due to the nature of Miramar, it is a much larger map than it seems. It is actually an 8x8, whereas Erangel is an 8x8. It has a lot more surface area covered by water, so this is gonna be the match that you would expect the players to spread out the most on. So seeing this somewhat limited flight path is kind of a relief for us, the viewer, but I'm sure our participants might not feel quite the same way about it. But going ahead and getting into it, looks like Burn in Silence might be close to Oxen, and the reason I say might is because this is, at the end of the day, Miramar, and as my buddy DKZA, a fellow caster commentator, you should all go follow him, he likes to phrase it this way: it's like driving on the interstate and looking through the rear view mirror. Objects may appear closer or further away than they actually are. Looks like Team 6 going into it already. Who were they up against? It was, a split. No, it wasn't Team 6, was it? No, it was TKS, pardon me. They are squaring off against R8, and talk about a really rough start for R8. This is somewhat carrying on the trend of what we saw for the first 5 matches of yesterday, and literally been alive for now a minute and a half on the board. And, 2 minutes on the board, and literally down to the final member. This is a tough one. Now, Meso had kind of the opportunity to potentially secure an escape route through the back of that building. I don't necessarily disagree with his decision to stay, given their overall placement with everything. So, yeah, I mean, they don't have much to lose at this point. So, I don't necessarily disagree with that in that context. Other than that situation, any other team, reduced down to its final hope that early on in a match, still beginning portion, mid-stage of the day, it's a tough decision to make, and generally I would think the escape route would make the most sense. Speaking of which, it looks like Remix has a tough decision to make of his own. Does he leave his fallen teammates, who are clearly being baited, to try to lure him back there, or does he carry on the team's name and try to secure some placement for the team after what was a pretty solid performance in the previous round? So, yeah. We'll have to wait and see what he decides, but it looks to me like he's securing a rotation escape, and I think that's probably the right move. Oxen and Burn in Silence still at each other's noses here. And yep, as I say it, I see Robert GG eliminated and thirsted, so they have given up on trying to hope for Remix to try to save his teammates here. And I think they're just going to go ahead and thirst. Remix is going to get out of the equation. Going to switch my attention to SOS here, though, as Z6 finds himself dangerously close to 2 members of the Queso crew. We got Nada driving right by, so Z6 S18 Scar L combo in hand, not really trying to draw the attention to himself because he does not know if that's a solo. I guess he doesn't seem to. Well, now he knows it's a solo and decides to weigh the options, and I think it's a good thing that he hesitated there because there's multiple people driving, and looks like the solo of Extreme Ice, Remix, just got a takedown of his own on a member of Aces. He looks like he got two birds, 1 stone there, taking out Yusuf and Deep right then and there and securing 2 elims for himself, and that'll be the only 2 elims Extreme Ice has on the board right now. So, Remember what I said about that flight path kind of evening out the downtime that usually accompanies a early stage Miramar. That, not so opportunistic flight path meant these participants had a little bit less choices and options at their disposal here. So the fact that we're seeing some early game altercations, not too surprising. And speaking of which, we're going to go tune in to the Royals and Ventru preparing to face off in the Leonis region. It looks like Jesse might be at the forefront of this. Yep. Right at the heels of Xiao. Xiao trying to escape the clutches of the high ground holders and Royals. Meanwhile, his teammates, Axial, have a bit of high ground on the likes of Aragod, putting a couple warning shots down with that 3x import and finding himself retaliated upon by the distant threat teammate, Jesse of Royals. All the while, Oxen and Burn in Silence having at it with each other. It looks like Dafter taken out on the alt cam here, leaving it down to a three-piece of Yum, Jader, and Insane. Yum holding position with a QBZ in hand. And here you see, I think I'm going to switch on out to this just for the sake of it. Yum trying to secure this revive. And you know what? We'll get Oxen's perspective on the alt cam here for this. Oh, Primo, the outlier here, doing that off angle, while Matson pushes forward bravely and aggressively with a utility nade being pre-cooked there, and still able for a impressive takedown there on Natson. Natson was able to get a knock on, or pardon me, Natson with an impressive knock on to Burn in Silence Insane. Barely able to clutch through it with about 15% health, but able to heal up, and thanks to his teammates providing that overwatch and cover fire. And just like that, Oxen crashing in with 4 elims on the board, very evenly distributed, 1 per person. Everybody eats. That is a solid team effort. But look at this, we're already down to 12 teams here, and the center portion of this new zone is gonna be congregating what looks to be around a Leonis area, but there's so many options as this new zone has migrated inbound to the land. It's gonna be a huge relief to the participants. It could mean that the pace of action may slow down for a brief few minutes though, as we tend to see be the nature of the large maps in PUBG Mobile Esports. Large maps mean little bits of downtime, pockets of silence, and in-between time, but it always equate to a more action-packed ending if that is the case. W9 of SOS dangerously far away from his team here. Once you zoom in, you see just how far. And granted, there is a lot of opportunity with a 3-1 split, but I don't really feel like SOS has currently put up the sort of points that allot for that. And speaking of that, we will be going over some overall scores here. Yes, all right, I do have some overall scores after match 2 here. Pardon me for leaving that map up, just kind of playing the waiting game. But as they currently stand, as we entered round 3 here, the overall scores thus far, we got Queso slightly solidifying their lead over the Royals, boosting what was at the beginning of the day a 1-point lead, now working their way up to a 5-point gain. And look at this, Oxen, maintaining such momentum. You can understand just why they are playing some of these marathon plays rather than the sprint tactic here. They have a lot on the line. They are in 3rd place, but only, let's see, 11 points behind first at this stage. It is very much in the running for them, and they don't want to be sacrificing any opportunities at that $650 prize pool. Okay, we got NRG 1 point behind the Oxen, so they're very much hungry for some chicken as well. Extreme Ice, a huge boost from what I had expected to see there in their point structure. For some reason, I had remembered a little bit underwhelming performance in a lot of games yesterday, so to see them at 6th place overall is pretty encouraging. What sort of action do we have for us here on the board? Well, looks like there's a knock on an NRG member. I'm going to switch to it, but I am a bit skeptical because I think it was a distance takedown from the northbound threat in Queso. And I think I'm going to go back to Z6 here. Oh, pardon me. W9 here on the alt cam of SOS, just in case anything does happen with the Royals. I don't think it is. The more I stare, the more I see a lot of standstill, and I don't really disagree with it, to be honest, given his position away from his teammates. Now, switching over to NRG. Yep, we are about to get some action, very likely, as the Titans drive dangerously close to 615. He is absolutely, without doubt, given a call where he says, "News team assemble. I need my NRG boys." Fate says, bet. Shows up to the party just in time. 615 taking the distraction and securing a knock on one of the Titans right then and there. Fate going full on aggro and out hunting, trying to catch any sort of scouting info he can relay back to his teammates, and maybe even out in pursuit of a thirst, trying to turn Vaganst into a little bowling pin here. Here we go, driving directly towards the altercation. I think this is more for... No, it's not an intimidation tactic. It's a full-on push. Just like that, Boobala late for the escape. And Fate capitalizes. The Fates have chosen, and that's going to put a lot of pressure here on these Titan members remaining, KX and Vincenzo, who are at this current point separated. All right, talk about separated. We also got quite a spread with Team 6. Enigma such a ways away from his two remaining teammates. This is interesting to see, especially considering the fact that Team 6 has a lot riding on this. You know, they entered round 3 in 5th place. You know, that's still very much in the running. Granted, there is quite a gap, you know, between themselves and NRG, the 4th place holders, of 15 points. But realistically, a 27-point deficit from first when you have, you know, 3.5 matches remaining, that's not impossible. That is not impossible. So, we'll see what happens. But for now, that is a risky spread, but it could leave some opportunities for them as well. You know, being, as we saw in match 1, the 2-1 split, unintentional as it was by, I believe it was Incognite or NRG, ended up, oh, pardon me, it was Team Aces, the outlier in Team Aces, that I believe his vehicle was shot upon, and actually, no, it was NRG. It was NRG. They were shot upon, and the 2-1 split, unintentional as it was their saving grace and allowed them to get some extra points. But Enigma driving right into the danger zone here. Meanwhile, Sinners off in the kill feed, but on who? Whoever it was, I think it was an immediate threat that has now been thwarted and resolved. So I'm going back to the boy himself, Enigma, now driving into a peanut butter and trouble sandwich here. And yeah, he is sandwiched in between SOS as well as Royals, not to mention this high ground here that Victex and Colgoat are utilizing. And I don't think Enigma knows about that per se. I think he, well, we're about to find out. I shouldn't make that prediction. Well, that'll be very easy to tell in just a brief few moments. If Enigma goes out into open field, you can bet your bottom dollar he is unaware of Victex. He might have some knowledge of SOS. If there was any bullet exchange when he pulled up, that would be his saving grace. But I think this high ground Overwatch is going to definitely have an advantage over this low ground compound. And here we have it. He just thanks his lucky stars for that little bit of info that Victex unintentionally provided. Enigma knows now that he is not to be peeking any of these opportunistic angles on this open window area. Meanwhile, his teammate Novio just swallowing a healthy calorie serving of bullets and brought down to the prone zone. Chris very close to follow, it looks like. And yeah, we got SOS making some moves here in the distance. Let's go catch a wind on them as they push in a little bit closer here to this love triangle forming between Team 6, Royals of War, and SOS. And yep, look at this. Victex, high ground utility. If this lands through that window, it is going to be very much a danger point for the likes of Team 6. And they have no real way of retaliating without a immediate knock that results in an immediate push. And what do I mean by that? I mean that if Victex is knocked from his position right here, from, let's say, Chris or Enigma, even if they are able to get that line on his peak, he's immediately, once he falls, out of their line of sight. So it would take either a lucky nade or an immediate hyper-aggressive push when they know that other Royals members are in surrounding areas and would have a pretty solid line on them. So I think the advantage in every sense of the word is going to have to go to Royals here. And NRG off in the distance. That's 615. Putting in some work. This time spreading the cheese out a little bit on that peanut butter and treble sandwich here. And now it's going to be an insta push on the likes of Queso, trying to get them before Potro can secure any revives. Potro does secure a revive, but just by the hair on his chin. Nades crashing in already. Undercooked a little bit, though. Regardless, the pressure has been added. NRG swarming onto Queso like flies on the North Carolina summer. Here comes Spec. UMP in hand, and it's quick work between himself and 615. That is going to bring the NRG crew up to 5 elims, and they'll still carry on as a full 4-piece, assuming that Fate is able to get revived, and as you can see, he will be. We see a little outlier in the shape of Primo of Team Oxen trying to get a line of sight through the window on any NRG knocks he can. 6X M4 aimed outward, and very possible that he might catch that line, but Zero making a vulnerable rotation outwards. All the while, TKS does actually get the knock there on 615. 615 thus far the heaviest hitter for NRG in this round. It's going to be a hit for sure, but look, this is a pretty even effort distributed amongst the team. Where's our next bit of action going to come from? I'll tell you what, I am going to put up Enigma of Team 6 on the alt cam, just in the off chance that something is brewing between himself and the Royals crew. I'm hearing shots, and I'm pretty sure that's either Oxen or SOS putting warning distance shots down in the distance. But I don't think that's really a probable reason to switch over. We're going to switch to Knight of Incognite, driving directly into a pool of Team 6 members, and Capri, easy takedown on the back end of them. And now here comes the remainder of Incognite here. It's Don Teal at the forefront. Enigma cooking a utility on the alt cam for this on-looming push from Incognite. Incognite weighing their options, maybe even caught wind of the Royals, but weighing it and deciding to bow out and pull a flank rotation on the outskirts of zone. This is, you know, it's probably the right move for surviving, but Incognite is going to have to keep in mind, you know, they entered this match 12th place overall, tied for 11th with SOS, but realistically only 21 points on the board here. That means, yeah, that tells me a couple things. It says they are probably doing a fair job at reaching to the placement point range, but they haven't been overly effective or efficient in terms of getting their eliminations. I've definitely seen plenty of knocks from Incognite in the Elim feed. Haven't seen a lot of points to their name in terms of elimination, so lots of hesitation when it comes to the confidence of taking on those CQCs. All right. Well, Capri of Team 6. Definitely in a bit of a cluster, along with the remainder of this Team 6 team, you know, to their high ground on one side, their north, I guess actually realistically, their east, occupied by the high ground holders of Royals. just across the streetway, they've got a full team of SOS. Just southwest of them, they have NRG, and south of them, Incognite. This is literally stuck in between a rock and a hard place, and not the ideal position for them. So I also don't blame them for utilizing what bits of compound cover they can, especially with Victex, the absolute, berserker yesterday, the one who put up 10 elims in one match. And that's not to say his team relaxed by any means. They put up 11 elims between the three of them. It was a 21 elim chicken dinner finish, or 21 elim chicken dinner or second place finish. It was chicken dinner. They got 31 points. All right, Sinners and Ventru, here we go. Goat and the remainder of Ventru, all with the high ground advantage over this. Tell you what, all the while, we got 2 altercations on the board. Team 6 facing off with Royals finally on the alt cam. The Goat and Sad have struck, and Scarface is downed. They said hello to his little friend, and it was not enough. God, that was corny. All right, Ventru Xiao just driving around like a bat out of hell, trying to get any enemy to become a bowling pin that he can. Meanwhile, Karen, the final hope for the Sinners, he will sin no more as the Oxen strike in a third-party elim steal. Doesn't look like we're out of the thick of it yet. I saw a Titan close by, and I also see Chris of Team 6 still uncomfortably close to Royals. All the while, NRG doing what they do, giving us the content. They say, don't worry, RedEyes, you don't gotta wait, my dude. We'll give you the action. And 615 driving like a bat out of hell right up to the opposition. Fate soon to join them, but they are both knocked, and now it is reliant upon the now two-piece of Zaro and Spec. Zaro firing outwards, M4 in hand. The Fates have been ended here. Same for 615. 1777 swallows a healthy cold plate of revenge, and then unfortunately a little too much tunnel vision for NRG Zaro as he is taken out in a third party from Incognite in the side, leaving NRG down to their final hope, Fate. Oh, pardon me, Spec. Sorry about that, Spec. Their final hope, Spec. But hey, Spec or Fate, those are both pretty good players to have. If you have to have a solo, those aren't bad choices. Now, see, remember what I was saying about Victex? This guy is he is a laser when he aims in. He does not miss. And give him a utility, and it's going to be hellfire crashing down left and right. His teammate Jesse putting a hurtin' in the distance with a Mini 14 sniper single tap. Victex getting a little bit more secure in geographical cover here. All the while, SOS handling what they can here with Incognite, but can't forget about the equally close threat of Spec. And speaking of Spec, what a monster nade I believe that was. All the while catching wind on Oxen and unintentionally providing a little assistance there to Titan Vincenzo. Looks like we got Goat doing some work on the alt cam. We're going to go tune into that. Goat of Ventru squaring in, and looks like he got a takedown on either a TKS member or Aces. Aces would be the more immediate threat. And yep, here on the alt cam, we got Zhao in a 1v1 against Sadra of Aces, and boy, oh boy, after securing it, doesn't even have a single second of celebration time as he joins his enemy in the land of the prone and is very likely to be vulnerable still. All right, Spec single tapping away there, but still a bit vulnerable on his backside from SOS. Tuning briefly over to the solo now from Titan. Vincenzo dangerously close to a full 4-piece of Oxen. We'll get Spec up. Royals of War going in. We're going to tune into it right here and now. All right, getting that off angle on Ventru and putting a world of hurt, all the while. I don't know if Royals knows about TKS, but Zhao given a panic response here, still having no choice but to drive in, trying to escape the bullet fire of one team, finding himself in a ticking time bomb vehicle, having to make the stop, and unfortunately for him, it did amount to his demise and that of his team. Royals still not letting their foot off the gas. This is 7 elims to their name. Ladies and gentlemen, we're down to our final 4 teams. And get this, it is literally a 4v4v4v1. Only Spec remains as anything less than a full team. And driving or running hyper aggro like a bat out of hell to a full squad of Royals. It looks like he had a knock on Aragot and Colgoat. What an effort. Ultimately, the GOAT is knocked down as well. Victex trying to secure a revive. Jesse doing a little bit of the same, and both revives finding themselves successful. Gotta boil that down to just the presence of having TKS here. Oxen, in any other circumstance, or TKS in any other circumstance, I would imagine would have immediately had a push on that, especially at this stage with only 4 or 3 teams remaining. Nadsen getting the knock on Royals' heaviest hitter, Victex, and now pushing forward towards Aragon and leaving that side vulnerable. TKS wastes no time, says thank you for the easy knock, but now that knock is going to get stolen by Aragon as well. Primo trying to get a vehicle explosion. Aragon is down at the hands of Navy Malkin, who also was the immediate threat to the previous Royals member. This is a tough one, but this is a pretty evenly distributed fight here. Colgo down to the final man on the team, but quickly realizing that he was in DBS quarters, switching to his, not before he was shot down by the enemies. Malkin, one of 2 remaining teammates, or one of 2 remaining members for TKS Navy, himself and Median. 8 elims to the team's name, and now in a square off of utilities, ladies and gentlemen, it is the end game. 2 teams remain here. It's Oxen versus TKS in a fair fight, almost fair fight, 2v3 in favor of Oxen.
Let's get ready to rumble!
All right, we'll pull up Malcolm here on the alt cam. And look at this. When there is almost no compound cover afforded to these participants, the geographical positioning is just everything when you don't have utilities. And even when you do, at this stage of an end game, those utilities, those smokes can be honing beams and serve the exact opposite of the purpose you meant for it to. But look at this, Malkin now down to the final hope for his team. Oh, I withdraw that. Median is not knocked. Now down to the final hope, Median. Raxter with a fatal error in judgment, turning his back to the opposition to try to get cover behind the hill. Not confident in that close quarters. Now Median almost in a position to pull off a 1v2. Luckily for the opposition, Morrison was handling himself under pressure pretty well there, but boy, Raxter making a split-second fatal decision there, turning his back on an enemy from 5 feet away. I get why. I get why he wanted that little bit of hill edge, even if he takes a couple bullet fires, you know, in the process. As long as he survives, gets behind the hill, at that point, he would have the ability to pull that behind the hill crescent rotation while his teammate provides the distraction, get the off angle. It almost seems like it would have been a sure thing. But to turn your back that close, Raxter is thanking his lucky stars for Morrison right now. But any way you look at it, ladies and gents, that's game over, and what a round it was. Oxen really performing at tip-top level today. They have a first-place finish, followed by what I believe was a third-place finish. Now, once again, having gotten a taste for chicken, they came back for more. And look at this, a first place with 15 elims to add into the equation. Oh, pardon me. First place with 13 elims to add into the equation. A 23-point gain in round 3 alone. Very well done. TKS, strong performance, especially considering how Malkin and Median were reduced down to a 2-piece, I guess stage 3 or so. But regardless, 8 elims, you know, between Malkin and Cardi C alone. Pretty strong when you got 8 placement points to add to it. That's a 16-point gain. Royals of War securing third place and doing so with 9. Now that's going to be crucial because Royals was currently only 5 points behind the first place holders in Team Queso. Now, you don't see Team Queso anywhere on this top 5 bracket, so Royals getting that third place, that's good placement, and to add to it, they were aggressive as always. 9 elims to add on to it. This is the point where I believe Royals will surpass Queso on the bracket board. NRG, gosh, you want to talk about another good performance. NRG coming back today is... not ruling them out, you guys. I really think that they have a shot at this. And Spec, Zaro, Fate, and 615 just showing exactly why they earned the right to call themselves professional players here. 6 elims, 4th place. But remember, NRG entered this match literally 1 point behind 3rd place Oxen. Now, while Oxen will be climbing, so will Royals of War be climbing. Oxen was, however, 6 points behind Royals entering this match. So actually, this could be Oxen or Royals taking the title from the likes of Queso in this round. We'll have to wait and see. SOS, 5th place with 2. The Titans falling hard in 6. Ventru in 7th with 3. Aces in 8th with 4. Incognit in 9th with 0. Team 6, 10th with 2. The Centers atoning in 11th with 2. And this is the most crucial part of this whole section, this whole stage of going over scores. Queso, 12th place with only 1 elim. Queso will have a total now of 79 points versus, Royals, who entered this match with 73, coming up now with 9 points plus the 6, 15. Yeah, they're passing. They're passing Queso now, and I think Oxen may as well. All right, Burn in Silence in 13th with 0 elims. Extreme Ice with 2 elims only, and that's thanks to Remix, who was brought down to basically the final hope for the team early on. And then now we are back to a bit of repetition here as R8 eliminated first in round 3. It's a tough one. But, ladies and gents, we still have 2 more rounds of action, mayhem, and strategy ahead of us to decide who wants their slice of that $650 prize pool the most. Well, only time will tell. Stick around. We're going to be back in just a few short moments with round 4 of 5 for the PUBG Mobile $650 Under the Sea Tournament Finals Day 2. Be back soon. Alrighty, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to round 4 of 5 of the $650 Under the Sea Tournament Finals Day 2. Time for a little bit more Rumble in the Jungle. Our second time on Sandhawk for this round, or for today, pardon me, for Day 2. And this is our opportunity for the participants to really correct the errors made in round 1, their first go around in this Rumble in the Jungle. But already, R8 landing in the line of fire of Ventru. So let's go ahead and get into it. While I acquire the overall scores here. Okay, here they are. Alright, Axial quickly rotating over to the QBZ and putting a world of hurt here on the R8 crew. And the pre-fire, that was just perfect. The pre-fire, just fully anticipating Smiley Boy coming around that corner. Yeah, this is a gap in performance here. Well, we got Meso downed like a bad habit by Axial as well, leaving everything for another round in the hands of their final hope, Ling Ling. And this is just it's underperformance, but it's also just a run of terrible luck for R8. Yeah, they have been performing a little bit under the mark here, but that does not take away from the fact that almost everywhere they land, it's just immediately ganged on before they're even able to get properly looted. So my sympathies to you, but regardless, you gotta be comfortable in taking on your close quarter confrontations and comfortable in your ones. Otherwise, the ability to win an event like this is very slim. All right, so while we are left with a little bit of downtime, I'm going to go ahead and go over the overall scores as they currently stand here. Oh, one moment. Huh, there we go. Okay. Let me make sure we're not missing anything first. Okay, we're going to get our main screen on spec of NRG. Clearly, NRG is going to be needing to have a close eye on because they have a real shot, as I was saying at the end of the last match, of turning the tides here. Pun intended in the context of the name of this event. But overall scores after round 3, yep, it is almost just as predicted there. Oxen did surpass Team Queso, and now with a 6-point lead. And on top of that, NRG very close to conquering the cheese as well. Only 3 points trailing behind the second place holders in Queso, and only a 9-point deficit behind the first place title. So very much so a reason for NRG to be very, very intimidating at this stage in the running. With only this match and the following to decide who is taking home that big slice of the $650 prize pool, it's going to be coming down to experience, skill level, and strategy here. Switching my attention to Sinners just briefly, just to see. Looks like they have a little bit of space here between themselves and Team 6. Could find themselves in a bit of a predicament if Oxen catches wind, but realistically, here's the way I see this playing out. If, in the case that, the Sinners catch wind of Team 6, or vice versa, they would engage. Oxen would fire at the team with the attention of a third party, and in doing so would get the attention of Incognite, who would catch Oxen off guard from the back end. But Oxen has shown time and time again just how well they handle in those high pressure moments where there's those split seconds decisions to be made. Oxen does not hesitate. So I'm not saying it's enough to rule them out of that altercation, but I do think that they would be third party if they engaged. Colgoat actually going to be taking the off angle here, but you know what? Speaking of Oxen, they are going to square off against the likes of Incognite, and boy, it looks like they have already suffered a little bit of a deficit in doing so. Rackster, who made that fatal error at the end, in the end game of the previous round, turning his back to the opposition. He's the first out this time around. Now, Morrison up here a little bit ahead of his teammates, but not without purpose. Natson holding the off angle here, and Morrison still has a close teammate somewhat nearby, but not close enough to be spotted all at once. So this is a pretty effective 2-1 split here, where Morrison has the opportunity to basically bait, but that decision to turn around and being taken out by Dante means one thing, and that means Incognite has the exact same strategy. They have essentially a 2-1-1 split or a 1-1-1 split, but regardless, the outlier player in this case was Dontiel, and boy, did it work perfectly. That's going to put a hurting on the Oxen as they are reduced down to half of their starting lineup, losing Morrison and Rackster before the end of stage 1, and carrying forward as a two-piece of Primo and Natson. No time to waste as Axiel turns his attention to the Royals of War out of the frying pan into the fire. He can't get enough of this taste for blood. And now, once again, we find the Royals in prime positioning. They have almost every instance today, found themselves in the advantageous positioning geographically, meaning that they are almost always having some high ground advantage here over these low ground holders. In this case, it's going to be Ventru, but that high ground, I mean, if Obi-Wan Kenobi did not teach us enough in Phantom Menace, then, you know, the high ground is important. And Aragod is holding it, but without the knowledge of Axiel's location, we've got some sneaky jungle snakes in Ventru here. Axiel might have a shot at catching Aragod unaware, and the fact that he clearly knows that Aragod's up here is something to be accounted for. Vicdex, the back angle here, also taken down. The numbers working against Axiel, and now look at this. Royals relying on Jesse and Colgoat. Jesse quickly down to the prone zone, going quick to belly bandit mode, and preparing a utility that might actually damage her teammate, Aragod. It does not, but it doesn't matter as Goat secures the thirst there. So Jesse having to creep forward, trying not to make a sound here. That reload definitely going to do something in terms of the noise. All right, positioning is made aware. Colgoat has the off angle here. Yes, he does. He does have the off angle, but if Ventru turns around, I mean, it would be a fairly easy spot. And this is interesting. You know, I was going to condemn that nade as compromising his location, but actually I think that he was just anticipating them falling back to that boulder, and he was, for the most part, correct. If that nade had been postponed maybe 2 or 3 seconds, I think it might have been a knock. But no time to waste, because we got Oxen off in the distance. The current first place holders right now, Oxen down to Primo and Natson. Tell you what we're going to do, though, is pull the Royals back up on the alt cam. Sorry about that. Had to step away and grab something real quick there. And now it does look like Ventru is going to find themselves a little bit vulnerable to a 2-1 split here on the hands of Royal. No time to waste, though. The main screen, Oxen out of the frying pan. They're out of the immediate danger. We're going to go get eyes on both sides of this altercation between Ventru and Royals. Ventru on the main screen. Royals will be on the bottom right. Okay, well, this is sort of where I feel bits and pieces of errors are like little, not necessarily errors, but hesitant, moments of hesitation on Ventru's end. But in this case, looks like that knock on Colgoat from the third partier in Extreme Ice might have been their saving grace. Clearly, they were hunting the remaining members of Royals, but I mean, I do feel like they had to have known that they had the advantageous numbers by a lot. They took out 2 Royals, knew that they outnumbered them 4-2, and still not overly eager to find those remaining members in those kind of crucial moments. But regardless, contextually, it may have ended up being in their favor, because if they had been a bit overly aggressive in searching for him, they would have almost certainly faced a line of bullet fire from the low ground holders in Extreme Ice, much the way Aragot did. And speaking of which, we got Rushy trying to pull a flank rotation around the back end of this building, facing some third-party fire onto himself, trying to catch a line onto the likes of Royals. And just as I say it, his teammate 9812 getting a knock on Jesse, and Goat with the thirst to follow. It is unfortunate that the Extreme Ice Elam was stolen, but now Rushy, to add insult to injury, being down by the DBS, while Remix a little too far out to, I guess Robert GG was closer, coming in for some assistance, but also being taken down with the DBS UMP combos. And now it's all down to Remix, ladies and gentlemen. He is in a world of hurt, but realistically, it's a 1v2 here. On top of that, though, those shots from NRG in the distance, Spec not far off. Those shots were aimed in this direction. I think his location is now compromised in favor of NRG here. And yes, they are just across the way. So Remix getting no moment to celebrate this victory here, and finding himself in a position where it might be a out of the frying pan into the fire scenario if NRG realizes that Remix is away from his teammate, and they do. This is a very NRG move. I don't even know if they know that he's alone, but it is very like NRG to aggro push on a weakened opposition, not wasting a single moment of hesitation here. And now the utilities are inbound. Hellfire crashing inside the building, and looks like, Remix taking minimal damage there, all the while his teammate 9812, I believe he just got a knock there in the distance, but unfortunately for him, I think, well, Remix is out of the equation. There will be no remix to this song. But on top of that, I think that his knock was on that straggler from Aces, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong about that, but if so, that was simply just offering up another elimination to either NRG or Ventru. Speaking of Ventru, we got Axe Heel here. One of a full 4-piece, but totally spread from his teammates. Completely spread. And again, Ventru, they're entering this match in 8th place, literally less than half the points of first. I think that this is okay. Context is everything, ladies and gentlemen. And I think, if you were a team like, let's say like Queso right now, a 3-1 split, while everyone in Queso is obviously a heavy hitter, I don't think that would be the right move when they have a clear running shot of getting the first place title in this 2-day final event. With that still being in the running, you don't want to make any easy splits. 3-1 splits can be extremely advantageous here if implemented correctly, but with only this match and a half remaining, any error made by Queso is essentially a sacrifice at their chance of winning. They're just a few points away from that reclaiming their first place title, but one bad match, if they do poorly here, and currently they do have 0 elims, and so if they're eliminated within the next 3 team positions, it could be a 0-point game. That would be an almost certain sacrifice of their chance at winning this. Ooh, the Titans coming in the distance. That was actually going to be on to Team 6. So we're going to pull up Team 6 on the alt cam. Matter of fact, let's pull up the Titans on the alt cam. All the while, Ventru and the Sinners having a little go of it. Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, it is quite a cluster forming that's going to be congregating here in this new zone. As you can see, a little bit of riverway taking up even more space. Not a whole lot of compound options to be chosen here in this new zone, but you can see some high ground, some low ground hills. But the good thing for these participants about that is Sandhawk offers just an abundance of geographical cover, meaning that there is just so much natural cover to be taken, more grass to hide inside and trees and boulders to hide behind. So at basically any point they can go prone and at very least have some concealment with the high grass. Karen of Sinners pushing up towards the likes of Ventru, right behind her teammates here. Scarface, Sook, and Gagan pushing forward. Gagan in a vehicle. I like this. I like this. The Sinners, what have they got to lose? They're coming in at 10th place today at a total of 33 points. They don't have a reason to not play aggro at this stage. Now, granted, only one Elam on the board. I still stand behind that aggressive push towards Venture. That's what I want to see. All right, well, speaking of the big cheese, we got Queso off in the distance, getting a takedown. Milovan still risking it here in a ticking time bomb of a buggy. Going back for his teammates. Potro gonna be the outlier here, trying to get a line of sight and maybe even an Elam steal on this altercation between Venture and Sinners. Sook hanging back here. Deadly Snake in the grass, able to heal up. We're gonna catch a wind here. Oh boy. Yep, here comes the remainder of the Queso crew. We'll have Zhao sticking the revive. Sad sticking the revive on Zhao. Axial in charge of overwatch and cover fire and trying to get this hilltop position. Milovan still in the smoking vehicle. He basically is... I mean, this is about the riskiest thing I've seen. This is a distraction is what this is. And it just so happened that Milovan was able to work his way right into all of them. A huge error on Sinner's end. Way too much hesitation. I mean, that should not have happened by any stretch of the word. That vehicle was down at a quarter of its overall health, meaning 2 or 3 more bullets, and that thing would have exploded. And still able to drive directly into a congregation of Sinners there and lay a slaughterhouse to 2 of their participants. Now look at this, ladies and gentlemen. NRG smelled the blood in the water, and the sharks have shown up to the party. Fate, a sneaky little belly bandit. If there's ever a place for a snake to thrive, it's going to be the jungles of Sandhawk. And look, we have a standoff love triangle. Venture, Queso, and NRG here at the high ground position. Fate in a low ground disadvantage exchange of bullets between himself and into him and Queso. Now, this altercation is going to have huge implications for the overall standings. This is the 2nd place and 3rd place overall holders in this event. And the nade from Fate crashing hellfire down on Nada. Beautifully thrown. Retaliatory nades are out. Fate securing the thirst. Now having to prioritize some shift into zone. Catching Potro off guard. He's got to get into the zone, but he might have to be revived. Just, on the outskirts, but not before he's able to put up those extra 2 Elams. And now Spec has the opportunity to gain ground on an extremely weakened Ventru or hang back and try to secure a revive. At this stage, you could bet your bottom dollar Ventru's going to secure this thirst. And as I say it, they don't seem preoccupied with it. They're looking for Spec. That thirst is acquired regardless. Axial at a very vulnerable point here, but Spec hitting... Well, you know, at that stage, he had to make his stand there. I do think if anything could have been done better there, it would have probably been to just, you know, weigh the odds after Fate or Spec were knocked and taken out outside of the zone. They were able to put up those 2 knocks, and I believe 1 was at least thirsted, potentially 2 thirsts, but regardless, it meant 1 to 2 members of the opposition are up at most. Probably the best odds he was going to get in that scenario. Look at SOS putting down a force field of bullets against Burn in Silence. They are stopped dead in their tracks. Now it's all up to the likes of Insane here, hanging back with this high ground boulder position, but just a few feet outside of the new zone and still spotted by Ventru. But once Ventru shoots, their location given up like a honing beam to the low ground holders in SOS. And boy, SOS has capitalized on these last 2 minutes of gameplay in such a great way here. Ladies and gentlemen, we're down to our final 3 teams here. We got ourselves a 3v2v1. It's going to be SOS, Ventru, and Oxen. And whoever wins this, it is trouble for a lot of the playing field, because Oxen getting this placement regardless, it's just huge implications. Chicken dinner or no, this placement after... Ooh, boy, you get caster curse right there and then. All right, well, Sad getting after a monster takedown, not wasting a second of time and getting an SOS member down. But this is where Ventru hesitated too much previously. They hesitated on the push last time as well. Going to get both members of Ventru on the screen here, and I do think that that could have been a brief moment that they could have capitalized on potentially. With a knock on W9 and on 1777, or B77 there, I don't think that their odds are going to have been better than they were. It was a 2v2 with a high ground position. I also see their hesitation in pushing. You know what? Given the spread that Ventru, or pardon me, given the spread that SOS had there, one member having the behind the boulder, securing a revive, and the other remaining member off on, I guess it was the western or eastern angle of the zone, that was very good strategy on SOS's position. So Ventru, while I do still feel that they have been a bit hesitant on capitalizing on their weakened oppositions after putting in the work to weaken them, I think in this case they actually really did survey the scene there and sort of weighed the odds of where that straggler, that outlier teammate was. So I don't necessarily disagree with their decision in not pushing in this case. I don't know how they would have really capitalized on it other than that, though. So I can't offer a better solution on what they should have done there, aside from maybe some utility thirsts, but regardless, a second place finish isn't bad. And SOS, hey, talk about a team that needed it, entering this match at 11th place, but now chicken dinner on the tip of their tongue finish and adding another 10 elimination points to it. That's a 20-point gain for them, and that's going to put SOS at a total of 46, which will, you know, assuming the TKS Navy boys didn't put up a single kill, that would put them in a tie for that 7th place position, bumping themselves up 3 or 4 slots. But Ventru, a little bit of hesitation there, but regardless, 10 elims and a second place finish is a 18-point gain for the Ventru crew, who entered that match in 8th place. That's going to put them at a total of 58, which would be if no one else had gained points in the 5th place bracket. That's bumping themselves up a considerable amount as well. But this, ladies and gentlemen, is where the important info is. Oxen just not missing this top 3 bracket at all today. I believe all 4 matches thus far have placed in the top 3 with 2 chicken dinners so far. I believe it's 2 chickens and 2 third places here. And to add 5 elims to what is, I'm guessing, 7 or 6 placement points, an 11 to 12 point gain for a team that already held a 6-point lead over second. This is a strong performance from Oxen. And it's even better because you can tell this is a dial back in their aggression. Oxen putting up just great elim points previously. You can tell they're playing a bit more reserved, a bit more cautiously. And in this position, in this context, that is the right move because they only have a brief lead over the second place holders. They only lead by 6 points. So one error, getting eliminated before placement bracket hits, would be devastating to them. Burn in Silence showing a lot of improvement here too. 4th place with 4 elims. NRG, hey, I mean, say what you want, but not missing the placement bracket and putting up 7 elims to it as well. Not quite the run that they needed to conquer Oxen, but I think it is the run that they may have needed to conquer Queso. And we'll get to that in just a moment. 7 elims to NRG. TKS, 0 points, but in 6. Now here we have it. Queso meeting the bracket of like 2 placement points plus 5 elim points. That's going to be like a 6 to 7 point gain here for Queso. And that would have put them up in the running to reclaim their first place title, except for the performance from the Oxens. And so I think this is going to put them at about a 10-point deficit. We'll have to wait and see. I'm not very great with numbers. Team 6 in 8th with 2. Sinners in 9th with 1. Titans Fallen in 10th with 0. Extreme Ice in 11th with 6. Royals. Oh, boy, that's a tough pill to swallow. 12th place, only 2 elims, only a 2-point gain in this round. That's going to be a devastation for their overall placement. But Incognite in 13th with 2. R8 in second to last this time, 0 elims, and Aces in dead last in 15th with 0. Well, ladies and gentlemen, 4 rounds down, done, and dusted, but we still have one more round. 30 minutes is all that separates us from knowing who's taking home that $650 prize pool. We'll have to find out in just a brief few moments, but stick around. We're going to be back with our 5th and final round of the $650 PUBG Mobile Under the Sea Tournament Finals Day 2. Be back soon. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Back. Wow, how is that the word that I stumble on? Back. It's one syllable. Welcome back to our fifth and our final round of the $650 PUBG Mobile Under the Sea Tournament Finals Day 2. Now, before we get into anything, let's go over the overall scores as they have so much weight moving into this last 30 minutes, this final round of Erangel and the final round of these finals. So, as it stands, we've got a 9-point lead Oxen holds over NRG. Now, NRG has climbed over Queso, as I noted, but only by 1 point. So this top three, any of these top three teams could come out victoriously and win this overall event. No time to waste. Let's get into it. Dropping in on Titan coincidentally, and on the first knock of the match, Boobala taken down like a bad habit, and now 3 Titans remain in this 3-way standoff here between themselves, Ventru, and the heavy hitters in Team 15. Pardon me, the heavy hitters of R8. I'm trying to speak kindly here, but yeah, R8 needs this. All the while, Boobala still kind of baited out there rather than thirsted. No easy elims given up there, but it looks like we're also have another point of altercations, which is going to be for Team 6 squaring off against the Sinners. And at this stage, Sinners are down to Scarface alone. Got that up on the alt cam as he is swimming in a pool of Team 6 members. Meanwhile, on the foreground cam, we got Goat messing up a nade that he's trying to throw over at KX. This might be the saving grace KX needed. Oh, that candle's burning bright, baby. KX desperately in need of some meds here. He does have 1 first aid, but maybe not enough time to implement it. Yeah, he was anticipating that push. He may have been able to get that first aid off, but I also understand the need to secure the stairway. So that was a tough one. And now the Titans down to Vincenzo alone, who is literally just completely, in every sense of the word, sandwiched in between 2 teams here. Getting 1 sling of damage there on the Ling Ling, but somehow the Tommy v Tommy altercation at point blank range, and even though it looked like those bullets, hit their mark, it did not seem to be enough. Must have had better armor. All right, well, Ventru still pushing in, 4-piece spreading out as we've seen them do. They're actually pretty good at this spread out, flank rotation and securing the takedowns, getting that off ankle. My issue is more about the hesitancy to capitalize after they get those knocks. And I'm going to see... Now look at this. Axial and Sad said, not this time, baby. We saw it's on R8, and we feel confident about this CQC. We're coming in guns a-blazing. Axial waiting for his teammate for a little further assistance. That's a smart move, especially considering Meso just on the outskirts of that building. Sad down like a bad habit. That's going to leave Axiel as the final hope for his team, clinging to a Tommy gun DP combo for dear life at half health, but still catching that off angle there on Meso. And now that's going to put... Yeah, that is a tough one. That leaves R8, who had 3 up, down to 1 up, securing the revive, but allowing Ventru to do the same. This is going to be an exchange, but Xiao, if he had the utility, it would have been the time to throw it. I think that hesitation is enough to say that he probably didn't have it yet. Understandable, as they just dropped in. All right, well, look at that. Ling Ling with a monster molly to finish the job there, and now Ventru... I think the odds have been even a little bit here. Yep, we got ourselves... Ooh, actually, well, I caster cursed it. I was going to say in favor of R8. But now, as I say it, the caster curse works double time here. Scrubs reduced down to the final hope, and then just banged on easy work for Ventru. And to add insult to injury, a few more bullets to the to the crate there, unfortunately for them. Burning Silence and Extreme Ice having at it on the southeastern portion of the northbound island here, with Zendry desperately trying to stick a revive before the inevitable push that comes in from Burning Silence. We see Dafter cooking up a utility, and yes, it does hit Remix. Zendry with very little health, realizing just how numbered his moments are here. No chance at a revive or a first aid. That's going to put Robert GG down as the final hope here for the Extreme Ice crew before, well, with 3.5 minutes left in stage 1. That is a beatdown to take in the final round of the final day. I'm going to check the map here, make sure we're not missing anything. Currently, elsewhere on the board, we have a bit of a spread. So, as it stands, we could see Incognite facing inbound towards Oxen, but there is some space for sure. Meanwhile, in the foreground, Robert in a 1v4 with the Silence crew. Burning boys. And oof! With a quick takedown S12, he took no damage on it, quickly aimed his sights towards the second, and was dropped like a bad habit. Now, little bit of a spread here as 10 teams remain spread across 39 people. Royals of War potentially on a path towards the likes of Team 6 here, and I think that's where we're going to start by tuning into. Ladies and gents, if you're just now tuning in, this is the final round of the final day of the $650 Under the Sea Tournament Finals. And I think I'm on the wrong team. That is Team 6. Or that's Burning Silence, not Team 6. Well, yep, we're about to get action. We're about to get action. Enigma, right on his tail, is Vicdex, the heaviest of hitters for Royals. And he is desperately trying to escape that grasp, that line of sight. Looks like, well, the Buggy Bandit, Enigma, who, you know, after all that talk about who was it in the last Erangel match, it was Enigma of Team 6 that had that buggy evacuation and ended up being the outlier on his team that survived. Well, Royals of War, Aragod up against Capri of Team 6, but not just Aragod. He's coming in with the backup of Jesse as well. Jesse taking the distraction, and Aragod working his way into the back door. Easy claps with the UMP-45. No time to waste as the Queso crew and NRG second and third place potentially about to square off. It looks like NRG is actively seeking it, and it looks like Queso is hesitant, and understandably so, as they have apparently lost Potro and Milovan early on. This could be devastation for Team Queso. What they will need is A, a strong performance, B, a potentially aggressive performance, and C, along with that, in addition to that, they need NRG and Oxen to both have a little bit of unfavorable luck. And if those little factors can line up just perfectly, they can still come back with this, even as a two-piece for a victory. They are literally 10 points behind first place. So if Oxen is, you know, facing a tough go of it first, you know, at least before the placement bracket is met, yo, NRG just got a pan kill. NRG 615 here just got a pan finish. It must have been a thirst. It had to. I hope it was a thirst, because I won't let myself down. I would, you know, just knowing that there was a pan throw or something that I missed. All right, well, where's the bit of action to come from? As you can see here on the alt cam, we do have Team 6, Royals of War, and TKS fairly close together here. So we're going to get eyes on Jesse of Royals. Meanwhile, on the foreground, these three members of Team 6 spread from their... Oh, I guess it's the only remaining members of Team 6 facing a line of fire. Royals of War having at it. And it looks like... I think I just saw Queso in... Yeah. Well, if you didn't believe in the caster curse, ladies and gentlemen, I bet you do now. Team Queso is eliminated right then and there in 10th place, no less, not meeting a single bracket of placement points, and not... Oh, well, they do have one elim point, but not enough to alleviate that deficit that they put themselves in. And so, unfortunately for the big cheese, the Queso crew, that is all she wrote. for the Under the Sea tournament and their shot at that prize pool. So now, what does that mean? It means that we could see a change or a little slight shift in strategy for a team like NRG or Oxen if one of the two teams is seen eliminated in the feed. And that would be probably a different strategy depending on the team eliminated, meaning that if Oxen is eliminated early on, that well, they still have several points ahead, about a 10-point lead over the NRG crew. So NRG would still need to put up somewhat of a aggressive performance, or at least high placement performance, whereas Oxen, if they see NRG leave the feed, then they may feel a little bit more comfortable about laying low. Realistically, though, they shouldn't need to, because if NRG is eliminated, that would have been meaning that, well, their next closest threat is leagues away down the bracket board, and they can play as aggressive or passive as they want. They basically would have all the leniency to pick their playstyle, whereas NRG might not have such a luxury. But look at this. NRG is not afraid or intimidated, not letting the pressure of a final match or this prize pool affect their gameplay. These guys are on a bloodbath berserker, just out here seeking action and altercations, driving every man for himself vehicle tactics. They are just so comfortable in their close quarter confrontations, both individually and as a collective unit, that they don't see a need to dial things back conservatively here. And honestly, as you know, any criticism I could give to that is thrown out the window based on how they've performed today. They are in their element right now, and it's working. Where is the next bit of action going to come from? We see SOS on a East Coast northbound flank rotation that might end up in a situation where they sandwich Oxen in between themselves and Incognite. But if NRG comes in on the back angle, that would spell some serious trouble for the likes of both SOS and potentially Oxen. Realistically, this is going to be a cluster that has to amount to something. There's just not really a way that one of these teams can engage with the other without facing some third-party threat. All right, I still think the more immediate concern, yep, we have Royals going in now. And boy, actually Royals being gone in on would be the more accurate terminology. Royals reduced down to half of their lineup here. They've just lost Victex and Colgoat. And if I'm not mistaken, I mean, well, Victex easily their heaviest hitter. Jesse and Aragod to carry on the team's name. This is a tough one for the Royals. Now being surrounded with a 2-1 split by the TKS Navy crew. Not ideal. So, checking the alt cam for any other action. Currently, we can see this little cluster still continuing. I'm going to switch to SOS here on the alt cam just for a brief moment. And we'll go back to the Royals boys on the alt. Look at that, W9 just NRG lining up for it. Spec wrecked into not really a lot of hesitation there. We were just speaking about it to their favor of NRG, but this is the clear downside of this kind of aggressive pushing, is not really taking the time to survey and scout the area for potential threats. And NRG knew that going in. They knew what the risk was, so this isn't really any big surprise to them. But with so much riding on this altercation, if they are eliminated now, just before the bracket of placement points, 6 elims is probably not enough to surpass... Well, it's definitely not enough to surpass Oxen. Oxen still had 1 elim, so that had them at currently they're 5 points ahead of NRG. NRG just needs a little bit of placement after this elim performance, but now they find themselves in a CQC battle. Fate, as I said, they don't let that affect their strategy or their confidence. Fate isn't going to change up a strategy that's worked like a charm today for them. They've been basically bullying the playing field with these pushes, so why let the pressure off now? A little bit of money on the board, not enough reason for them. On the alt cam, Jesse of Royals of War getting the finish on the TKS Navy Median. Aragot on the alt angle with a UMP 45 in hand, but taking a little bit of nade damage, being reduced down to about 3/4 of his health. And ooh, Fate catching the opposition mid-air there. Ah, I am wrong, aren't I? No, I'm not. I thought it was Fate catching the opposition mid-air. Unfortunately not. And ooh, W9 taking 2 down, 1 to go. If W9 gets this, it will change the outcome of this event. It will change. Oh my goodness.
Bruh.
She was like, oh my God, no, Kevin. Oh no. Oh no. Oh no.
Tablets and phone devices might get broken from that one. That's a tough pill for NRG, but does not detract for what a phenomenal effort they put forward collectively today. But that does mean, if I'm not mistaken, that I believe that means Oxen has solidified their position here. I could be wrong. Especially, you know, considering that Team 6 is still up. I mean, granted, yeah, I'm pretty sure Oxen, just by surviving there, now they've already met placement point brackets, so there's just no way that they can be surpassed now, I don't think. Having said that, math is by far my weakest subject, so. All right, well, it's a standoff here between Team 6 and Oxen, and that could be interesting if the likes of Incognite come in for this third-party push, or, you know, even hear any bullet fires exchanged, then they likely would. But so far, no real inclination, nothing to hint about these two teams being here, as they're both just silent as field mice right now. All right. Well, what else is happening on the playing field? Nothing yet. Burn in Silence coming in to a northbound rotation from just beneath the shelter prison area. Could find a bit of a sneak attack on the likes of Ventru if so. But realistically, this altercation or proximity, I should say, between Oxen and Team 6 shows the most promise. With Incognite pulling this flank rotation, who knows? All right. Oxen going to use this opportunity now to make their push towards Team 6. Enigma and Echo have to be aware of it. They see the smoke. They know what's coming, right? I mean, yep, Enigma cooking up a preemptive nade here. We're going to get both sides of this. Oh, Eco with a monster nade that does land and connect here. Will it amount to a push? He's got another cooking where that came from. Yeah, Oxen deserves some screen time here. With the performance that they have been putting up today, they deserve it. We're going to give them to them on the alt cam, and the underdogs here in Team 6 on the foreground. Eco trying to use that opportunity, reload a DBS, you never know, and making the most use of his utilities as he can, trying to provide what bits of cover and ambiguity to the opposition, or from the opposition, as he can. And oh, if that would have been a line on him, Enigma is naded down, and Eco finds himself as the final hope against a full squad of Oxen. But as I say it, I believe that the odds have been evened a little bit as a Rackster has been eliminated, so it's a 1v3. Eco up against the likes of Primo, Natson, and Morrison. And ooh, he fell for the bait, unfortunately swallowing a lot of DBS damage. Getting another! Oh my goodness, it was... Oh, that was an almost 1v2. Regardless, even if he was able to secure that, Oxen still had a third member up and about. The odds were so stacked against him. He was just outnumbered, outmanned, and outgunned. But hey, not a bad final stand to make. But no time to waste as Don Teal of the Incognite crew comes in smelling the blood in the water. He heard the shots and is attacking on a weakened Oxen. And down goes Primo. Morrison is the final hope now for the team, perched on the stairway, awaiting this inevitable push from a full four-piece of Incognite. But a S-12 sounds the same in every language. But you know who speaks that shotgun language? Knight of Incognite with a DBS retaliation, and that is quick work. Incognite now putting themselves all the way up to, well, I shouldn't say all the way up. They put themselves up to a total of 3 elims now, and at least some decent placement, to say the least. They're going to be, at worst, eliminated in 5th. At best, who knows, a chicken dinner with a heavy elim count. Probably not enough to take the first place title, but enough to leave an impact for sure. Well, we got to tune our attention to Yum, the outlier here in Burning Silence, away from the remainder of his team in a 1-3 split, and driving around trying to scout for anyone gullible enough to fire back. The second they fire back, that positioning is marked for the remainder of the team, and then with this much open field, I mean, have a look-see at this zone. Not a single building afforded to the participants. Falling for that trap could mean certain death. Yes, it may also mean the demise of Yum, but there's still a full 4-piece, and sacrificing one for the location of the remainder of the playing field might not be a bad move. Yum is down regardless, but goodness, Dafter and squad waste no time, and now Belt is down, but in doing so, the location compromised, and this is exactly what I was talking about. Incognite putting up their location, retaliating and trying to assist Belt, but now finding themselves vulnerable to TKS. Knight wasting no time, retaliating onto Dafter. Insane finds himself as the one of 2 remaining hopes for Burning Silence, himself and Jader. Jader in charge of Overwatch and cover fire, while Insane tries to secure the revive. Aiming outwards, M4, 4X in hand, trying to get any sort of line of sight onto Don Teal of Incognite that he can, while trying to enshroud his teammates in a cloud of smoke, give any opportunity that he can for Insane to heal up here. Jader putting the warning shots off to try to hold the Incognite rotation at bay, but it is not successful. What is successful, however, are the shots from TKS. TKS able to hold Incognite at bay, unintentionally assisting Burning Silence there in those brief imperative moments that Insane needs to get a little bit more healed up. Now, realistically, this is interesting because the proximity is lining up for an Incognite Burning Silence battle. But if that does happen, that is going to leave open area for a TKS third party, and then likely an SOS fourth party onto TKS. This is going to be a domino altercation here, is my prediction. So for that reason, I'm switching to SOS. W9 driving forward in a burning vehicle, taking a lot of damage. We saw Insane taken out in the foreground here by Don Teal. Jader's nades crash onto Don Teal in retaliation, and the second one does hit successfully, taking Don Teal out of the equation, and now Jader finds himself in a 1v1 against Knight of Incognite. Meanwhile, the alt cam, we see SOS squaring off against Ventru here, enshrouding himself in what bits of cover he can. Utility cover with the smokes as well as the vehicle cover, trying to give himself every bit of cover he can. Jader does finish the squad wipe on Incognite. Burning Silence acquiring their 8th elim, and half of those go to Jader alone, but no time to waste because SOS W9 in a nade battle, throwing through the smokes here, trying to make a little Hellfire bomb rain on the Zao of Ventru. And Ventru diversifying their portfolio, spreading their resources out as far as they can in a 2-1 split. Axial and Sad holding the off angle and letting Zao potentially be the foreground holder, meaning take the focus. And if Navy Gear or W9 makes any vulnerable peaks on Zao, it's almost a certain line of fire for Sad. However, what they did not account for is the just hyper-aggressive push from Jader. It does not pan out well for him. He did not really scout the area well enough there, because he left his entire side vulnerable. But with just literally no cover here, the only compound is this shack. And in situations like this, I spoke about it yesterday, I see it time and time again amount to a team's demise, finding that false sense of comfort in those shacks. So realistically, this is just a vulnerable in zone. And SOS W9, the only one really aside from the shack holder with any cover, and he's about to lose that to the rotation on Navy Jeer. Navy might not know about SOS's location, and I think that's the case. W9 has an opportunity to nade out Navy, who just made his location known. Boom goes the dynamite, all too literally. Hate to be that right, but sometimes you gotta be.
What does that do? Did that blow your mind? That just happened.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, 3 teams remain here. It is down to a 3v1v1 in-game. SOS, TKS, and Ventru. Let's get it. All right, W9 has 2 enemies here on him, 2 different teams. Oh boy, this is a tough one, but he does secure the takedown on Malco. Beautifully done. Oh! All right, he's got himself a 1v3. Crazier things have happened. Oh, it's unfortunate, but goodness, you know, talk about a final stab in the dark. That was quite a potential turn in the tides that we saw there. Hold on, I have to get this clip. Red. All right. Well, what a day it has been. Goodness gracious. Absolute bloodbath warfare to conclude the day. And any way you look at it, it's game over. Ventru putting up a strong performance there at the end. They entered this match in 6th place, tied for 5th at 56, but with a 20-point deficit behind the Royals, who held 4th. I don't see it really being enough of an improvement to maybe even make that payout range. But regardless, you came in, you never let your eye off the prize, and you never became a team that gave up when things started looking grim. Ventru was here, honestly, implementing some pretty awesome strategies. Their 3-1 splits, their 2-2 splits, and their 1-1-1-1 splits almost always were implemented very effectively up until the point of capitalizing on those knocks and making those aggressive pushes to secure thirst. That would be the room for improvement moving forward, but boy, the potential of Ventru is, I mean, it's big. They did surround the opposition almost every single match today. I saw a 3-1 or a 2-1. A 3-1 or a 2-1-1 split by Ventru on the opposition that amounted to at least 1 knock. I will say that of those knocks, a lot were sacrificed to third-party elim steals unnecessarily. Regardless, to finish the event with a chicken dinner plus 9 elims, a 19-point gain on the final round of the event, honestly, that sends a tone to the remainder of the playing field. And coming in day 1 of whatever next event they find themselves up against these participants again, there's going to be an air of caution on a lot of the opposition's end. There's going to be a hesitancy when you see that name in the kill feed. Either way, SOS, ain't nothing wrong with the effort from W9. Talk about a solo effort there at the end, but just annihilating person after person. There was great positioning there at an in-game zone, you know, to use the geographical cover behind the hill, even knowing it was outside of zone, but those brief moments could have provided the placement boost to get the team up a couple more notches up in the overall placement board. I agree with every bit of the way W9 handled the in-zone altercation. Honestly, chef's kiss. It just ultimately ended up being a situation where he was just every odd stacked against him, but even had me for a brief moment there, had me thinking it might happen. Well, the Navy crew coming in third with 3. Burn and Silence showing a lot of improvement here in this final round, getting 4th place, but with a total of 8 elims. And boy, Jader, responsible for half of those. We saw him in those last moment altercations up against NRG and Incognite and getting very successful knocks. Speaking of Incognite, hey, give credit where credit is due. Another team that did not let their eyes off the prize here. Even entering the match with 23 points, it's okay when they, can still be a formidable threat in the ending portion of this event. What I will say, though, is I would have expected, like a team such as the Region 8 Centers or Team Control. I don't believe we saw Control here today. But like teams like Burn and Silence, who did have this great performance here, I would have wished for a little bit more of what, the strategy that Burn and Silence implemented. I would have liked to have seen it from Titan or, Center. We definitely saw it from Incognite and Burn and Silence, though, when all the cards are on the table and there's no more time to hold that first place prize as a possibility. Well, that made essentially Burn and Silence and Incognite 2 of the most absolutely dangerous teams to go up against in this final match. When you have nothing to lose and you have no reason to hide, if going full on honestly stupid aggro is, doesn't have a downside, if you're eliminated but it won't change up your overall standings, that makes them the wild cards of the final round and a very formidable threat to teams that entered this match in the top 3 like Oxen, NRG, and Queso. And honestly, I think that might have amounted to why we saw such a devastating blow to teams like NRG and Queso here in this final round. But again, NRG, gotta give them the credit where credit is due. I really, the performance, the collective performance that they put in today and towards the end of yesterday was enough to shoot up the bracket board all the way to being at the heels of Oxen. And so, hey, commend them. But Oxen, also really, really commending the performance from them throughout the entirety of today. This, if I'm not mistaken, this last round is the only match that Oxen did not find themselves in the top 3 placement bracket for. And I mean, honestly, I think that that was intentional. They made ensure that they had placement acquired before securing those in-game elims, and understandably why, because they had such a close slack in the rope, such a small amount of slack in the rope between themselves and NRG and Queso, that realistically every bit of placement counts. And watching that elim feed, once they saw Queso knocked out of the running, once they saw Queso knocked out of the running, then they know, okay, well then it's NRG who's our last threat. And then once they saw NRG lose even a few members in the elim feed up against Royals, I think that gave the Oxen a little bit of the clear ahead to say, all right, let's have a little bit of fun with it. I think we solidified our dub. We'll have to find out. Actually, we won't have to wait to find out, because all my blabbering and big mouthing was just enough time for the final scores to arrive here. So give me one moment. Okay. Let me just make sure that I have the correct scoreboard up on here. Okay. We're going to have to just drag it in, it looks like. Sorry about that. Well, the overall scores when it's all said and done, Under the Sea tournament, $650 tournament, is going to go to the crew in Oxen, who, wow, they hit the bracket for triple digits on the money. That is a nice little bit of icing on the cake. There's nothing that feels a little bit more complete than just hitting that 100, getting that A+. And honestly, NRG only a 7-point deficit behind first. Seriously, I think NRG is going to be the team to watch out for moving forward. I mean, this is pretty opinionated here, but most consistent going to go to Oxen. Most aggressive to NRG. Now, for NRG to be that hyper aggressive and that successful at it, that is concerning to everyone else on the playing field here moving forward, because all they need now is just a few adjustments, minor adjustments, no changes in their roster, just a few tweaks here and there, and you know, I would say more than likely some dialing back about early and mid-game conservative gameplay. Because we saw NRG in an every man for himself vehicle strategy out there hunting. We saw Fate doing a 3-1 split out there hunting. Now, granted, they do it beautifully. Like, they do it. I mean, honestly, in terms of NA, I don't think any other team is doing that better. I don't think any other team is implementing 3-1 splits or 1-3 outlier distraction drivers better than NRG. But I think, you know, that same aggression that did lead them to climb up to second is also ultimately what led to the downfall here in round 5. So they are right on the cusp of finding the perfect synergy between themselves, and just a few tweaks moving forward. And I think NRG is a team to really be concerned about moving forward. Team 6, 7th place with 6 elims. NRG this round, 8th place, doing so with 6 elims. Not quite enough. They did, you know, take that into perspective. Only like 1 placement point for them, and still closing that gap pretty well. Only a 7-point deficit behind first place. They should feel very proud of themselves for their effort. And also, Royals of War, you know, a lot of the momentum seemed to escape their grasp at the ending stages of yesterday and basically the entirety of today, but not without acknowledging the, you know, honestly, the Royals of War put up a lot of momentum yesterday. And never really let their foot off the pedal today, just not really able to maintain the momentum that they were snowballing towards the first 3 matches of yesterday. I don't remember how they placed at the end of yesterday, but I remember feeling that there was a change in the tides as they only had a brief, you know, a brief gap between themselves and their close oppositions. But the big cheese, this is a little bit of the same, you know. Queso, this was, I think, when they were in their comfort zone, that was when they were in their prime form. And the second that pressure kind of capped on towards the rounds 3, 4, and 5 today, I think that is sort of where the pressure really kind of started to affect their gameplay, and we started to see them dialing it back from getting a fairly elimination-intensive, you know, day yesterday to a much more conservative playstyle that ultimately panned out against their favor. Queso, I think realistically, we've seen them as a bit of a coin toss team, meaning that when they're in their synergy zone, boy, I mean, it's like every single one of them is a heavy hitter in solo mode or as a solidified unit. But the second things really start to look a bit more pessimistic is when it really starts to affect the mental. Now, I'm not sure about, you know, that yet, but that's just my takeaway from the past 2 days alone. Extreme Ice, unfortunately for them, 11th with 0. R8, hey, you know, it's been a tough tournament for R8, but they participated the whole way through and never let their eye off the prize on improving themselves and their team synergy. And for that, you have more respect than a team that you know, might be an all-out heavy hitter, might be one of the top teams in the region, but does not continue when things look bad or they lose their chance of getting the money and they don't come back for day 2. Well, R8's got a much better standing in my eyes than that. All right, Titan in 13th with 0, and lastly, the Sinners in 14th with 0. But, ladies and gentlemen, that is that. The Under the Sea $650 tournament finals are concluded, and it has been an honor and pleasure getting to cast this for you guys. I just want to say thank you guys so much for tuning in. I'm RedEyes, primarily known for being a semi-professional esports commentator for the NA scene, but I also stream personal gameplay of PUBG Mobile almost every day. If the content or the commentary was something that you enjoyed, please do consider subscribing, following. I also have my link tree pasted in there as well. If you care to follow, I multi-stream on 6 different platforms for the most part. So you can support me on there or follow me on any of the socials. It would mean the world to me. But until the next time, guys, I hope you all have a great night. Have fun, be safe, be kind to one another. GG's.